recording.
Okay. So tonight we're going to discuss licensing at a glance. And I have a couple of things that, first off, I'll start with an introduction. My name is Susie Langston. I've been with the Indiana Department of Education for over 25 years. I started in licensing when I was in college. And I have been through the superintendent's office. I've worked in the office of school traffic safety. I've worked in the attorney's office, our general counsel, and then I'm back in licensing and have been here for about 8 years. So this is my contact information. I'll bring it back up when I'll bring it back up so you all can take a look at it again if you need it at the end of our conversation. The first thing, I'll just kind of go through an agenda with you. We're going to discuss our licensing process at a glance, which will kind of walk you through the steps of licensing, possibly explaining to you what license you now have and then what's next and in the process for you to renew or convert or even professionalize. I'll introduce the Department of Education website, the licensing website. There's some information there, and that's where you go for any information within the department. And then I'll also bring up ELVIS and discuss some of the things within ELVIS that are helpful for everyone. And then we'll ask any questions that you might have. So if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and start. And then one thing that I'm going to do y'all mind if I shut off my camera so that little light isn't watching me? And then does that mess it up at all? Can you all see that still?
What do you want to be shown right now? Because
what I would like is the Indiana licensing process at a glance. Is that showing?
I'm not able to see that.
Let me do this. Hang on. Aha!
There it is.
There we go. So you all didn't see my table 10 either, did you? There's my contact information. You have to share your screen in order to be able for people to see your information. How about that?
There we go.
All right. So, and I'll bring that back up here in a little while. So a lot of folks that when you first come out of college, the license that you are issued is a 2-year initial practitioner license, and we call that an IP license. And that can be seen on your license at the very far right side. It's typically an IP for initial practitioner, a P for a practitioner, which is a 5-year license, and then an AP, which is an accomplished practitioner, and you have to either have a master's degree or a national board certification to obtain that, and that's a 10-year license. So some of you may have the 2-year license. So I'm going to scroll up just a little bit because it's the most convoluted license to renew. It's not straightforward at all. And it depends upon the experience that you have as far as what your steps are next. So we start over here on in the box that says initial practitioner 2-year license. And when you get that, and if you get hired right out of college and you obtain this 2-year license and you get your 2 years of full-time teaching experience, it is a straight shot for you to either complete IMAP or a 40-point professional growth plan. And when you do one of those 2 options, you will convert your license and you'll complete a conversion application to go to a 5-year license. So that's a straight shot. Initial practitioner, 2 or more years of full-time teaching experience, a 40-point PGP, or completing IMAP. And IMAP stands for Indiana Mentoring and Assessment Program. It's something that you complete with your principal. You sign up on our website, not in ELVIS. There's no link in ELVIS at this time. I've pledged for one and tried to get one in ELVIS because that's where you all do all of your work for your to obtain your license, and all your professional growth plan points get entered into there. So I would like to see IMAP in there, but maybe at some point that will happen. A PGP is a professional growth plan. I'll show you that in ELVIS. And then the other legend that we have down there is the Indiana Professional Licensing Agency, and that would be for those folks that would hold a school services license. So since you all are teachers, we're going to discuss this as teachers. If you obtain your initial practitioner license and you don't get your 2 years of full-time teaching experience right off the bat, and that has happened, then your option is to renew that license. And the only thing that you need to do to renew that license is just have a valid CPR card. And you can renew that for that 2-year license for another 2 years. Then if you obtain your 2 years of or more of full-time teaching experience, you go back over and complete IMAP or a 40-point PGP and apply for that conversion. If you don't get 2 years of full-time teaching experience, then your option is to renew for this third time. It's an initial practitioner and then your second renewal. Hopefully at that point you get 2 years of full-time teaching experience and you get to go that route. But if you don't, you go back to, if you have the less than, you go back over to this side and you do a 90-point professional growth plan called an initial practitioner cycle reset, which is a 90-point professional growth plan. We are trying to get that right now we have 2 90-point PGPs, and the reason that we have 2 is because our state legislature a couple years ago put a and they asked all of you teachers to do a 15-hour internship or externship within career tech, and that has since been removed. It was removed last year, so we no longer really have to have 2 separate professional growth plans. We're hoping to combine those back into just one. And then when you do that initial cycle reset, it sets you back up for an original initial practitioner 2-year license. So those of you with the 2-year license, those are your options. Once you get down to the conversion, you get those 2 years and you get down to the conversion. I'm going to scroll up. Then you hold a practitioner P license, which is a 5-year license. When you are ready to renew that license, if you have your master's degree or national board certification, then you'll follow the yes and go on to get the 10-year and you'll complete a professionalize and renew application to obtain that 10-year license. If you do not obtain a master's degree or national board certification, then you will continue with a 5-year license throughout your career. To renew the 5-year license, your options are 6 hours of coursework, a 90-point professional growth plan, completing the national board certification, and then there are some folks, school services, that can use an Indiana Professional Licensing Agency license. If you complete the master's and the national board certification and answer yes, and you obtain that accomplished practitioner license, basically you're going to do that every 10 years. At one point throughout the certification, you went from a 10-year to a 5-year and then back to a 10-year. That has since been eliminated, and you can consistently stay with the 10-year license. And your options are to renew with coursework, renew with a PGP or that national board certification. It has to be kept current, and when you do that, you can use that to renew the license. So that's licensing in an essence. Are there any questions at this point?
I'm not seeing any in the chat. Does anyone have
Okay.
any questions? Okay.
All right. So that brings me over to, I'm going to flip over. I think we're going to try. Let me see if this is going to work. My screen does some wonky things, so I'm hopeful that you all can see this. Share. All right. This is the Indiana Department of Education licensing website. The licensing webpage has information here for you. So if you're wanting to find out how to renew or the steps to renew or what can I teach with the license that I have, all of that information can be found on our website. There are several links on the right that are helpful. The assignment code will help you determine what you can teach. Of course, CPR is always required for certification. Anytime you do an application in our system, you'll need to do that, except for an addition. If you're renewing, if you're converting, professionalizing, the CPR is required. Another requirement for original certifications is the suicide prevention training. A lot of you do that training when you're employed at the schools. They do have a requirement this year. And our suicide prevention training requirement will not meet the school's requirement, but if you have to apply and provide that document to us, then you can utilize the one from the school that you have done. You can utilize that certificate. And ELVIS, the ELVIS homepage link is here. So a lot of links over here on the right. There are 4 colored boxes here that are very helpful. When you want to do something to your license, you would click I am an Indiana teacher, administrator, educational interpreter. If you want to become an administrator, then you would click the I want to be in Indiana. So those are just some things that are helpful that are on our website for all of you. The other colored boxes are the other things that are very helpful. And that's where we put important information for you.
Okay, I'm going to stop you for a second.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question from Pam. She says,
Okay.
does it matter that I'm under the rules 46, 47?
It does not. Everyone has a different rules base. If you were to add to your license right now, the addition would be under REPA. I'm sorry, it would be under REPA 3. And that it would still have the same expiration date that you currently have, but you are just one of those folks that when you completed your ed prep program, it was under the rules 46, 47. It went from, let me pull up an assignment code here real quick and see if I can do that. See if it's going to populate. So you all can take a look at all the different rule spaces, and there's different language. For instance, can you all see that?
Yeah.
Very good. So the Bulletin 400 are folks that are retiring if they haven't retired already. There's still some Bulletin 400s around, and they have their set of rules. Then under rules 46, 47, that's the next column. The first 2 columns, the code and the course title, that's the code that the school uses to enter information into some of the things that they have to process and provide to the Department of Ed. And then there's the course title. And then under rules 46, Bulletin 400, rules 46, 47, the next column is rules 2002. And we've combined REPA and REPA 3 since they're relatively close together, same types of courses. And I believe the blue does indicate REPA 3 when there is a difference. And that goes throughout the entire assignment code. It is 140 some pages long, so I'm not going to scroll through the entire thing, but that is something that's very helpful if you all ever need to get in there. Let me hit my back button. And let me go back to licensing. So one thing that I want to talk to you about today is the governor's executive orders, and I think that might have a little bearing on some of you that may not have renewed your license at this point. But the governor's, he had several executive orders that helped us throughout this pandemic, and those things can be found on the on our website in these boxes. The first box talks about the CPR card. That the governor's executive order, the governor's executive order never eliminated CPR requirements. It also did not allow us to utilize online only. It did extend the CPR training to September 30th, that people could upload a promissory note But that was just for the initial teaching license. So anyone that was seeking that, they could use the initial teaching license. The governor's executive orders also, any license that expired between March 1st and August 30th were extended also to September 1st. With that extension, we didn't change anything on anyone's licenses. It was just a given that your license, if it expired during that time frame, would now expire on September 1st. Now, the State Board of Education has a rule that states if you are teaching at an Indiana school and your license expires after the first day, on the first day of school, you are teaching and it expires on that day or after you've started that day, the first day of school or after, then your license is now considered valid through the entire school year. So anyone whose license expires and it was valid on the first day of school, their license is now considered valid through the entire school year. So with the governor extending everyone's license to September 30th or September 1st, that allows everyone to utilize that extension. There are lots of people that have continued and met those requirements, and that's fine. You can go ahead and extend your license or renew your license, and you've started your cycle all over. There's no extensions that are given. There's no additional time frame that will be given to any license. Once you submit the payment for a license, the issue date will be 2, 5, or 10 years from that particular date. So any questions about the governor's executive orders?
I have one quick question, please. That rule you just mentioned, does that apply to higher education where you said if you start the school year? I'm assuming not, but.
Explain higher education. What do you mean by that?
So if you're not teaching in a preschool through 12 or K through 12 school, but you're teaching in higher education?
Yeah, well, no, it would not apply. You have to be employed at an Indiana public school or a charter school. And it would be, but there's a but. There are no penalties in Indiana for letting a license lapse. So if your license expires and you haven't been able to do any of this, then you can, you just meet the requirements and get it done. We have had folks leave Indiana and gone elsewhere to obtain certification, or even stayed home to watch their children and decided to come back. The only thing they have to do is meet the requirement for the license that they have, and then they can renew that license for another 2 years or 5 years, or they could even convert it if they meet those requirements. Again, they'd have to have the 2 years of teaching experience to be able to convert. So any other questions that I can answer in regards to that?
Yes, we have a question from Renee. She's Rules 4647.
Mm-hmm.
She's coming to the end of her 10-year license, and she wants to know if her next one will be another 10-year.
Yes, ma'am. It will. Once you get the 10-year license, we no longer go back to the 5. That rule has been eliminated. So you will have a 10-year license when you renew it the next time. So, and then there's, in the purple box, we have information in regards to the professional growth plans where the legislature no longer made it a mandatory 15 points. It is still optional, but it's not mandatory. So that is helpful to everyone. So I'm going to flip over to ELVIS real quick.
Can I ask another question? I
yes,
think this is
absolutely.
While you're doing that. So I was trying to find, I have a picture of mine and I found it because that first chart, and I came in a little bit late to the session, but you had that chart up where I think it was like accomplished practitioner. So I was just curious, I'm Rules 2002, and on my license, this last one was issued with Glenda Ritz, and so I don't see anywhere on it that it says accomplished practitioner. But
over to the right, do you see an IP, a P, or an AP?
No, but that doesn't mean
or a PP.
I do see it under proficiency. Yep, I do see that. So that's where AP, it says
correct.
AP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and then the length of the license should be 10 years.
Yes,
if it's
it
an
is.
AP, it should be 10 years. Now, the only time that would change is if you did an addition in the middle of that, the addition's issue date would be different than the issue date of what you originally had professionalized.
Okay, this is all, and you said it's now 10 years again, so that's exciting.
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, that does help out a bunch. And okay, so I'm going to talk about some professional growth plans, and I'm going to kind of walk through ELVIS a little bit. When you have a 10-year license, it's important when you submit your professional growth plan, you can collect your professional growth plan points for the entire 10 years that you're working, and you're going to get them quicker than the 10 years. But I'm going to show you where to put them. Professional growth plans are workable documents, and you can get to them at any point. The thing about the 10-year license is you don't want to submit the professional growth plan until the last 5 years of your 10-year license, because professional growth plans are only valid for 5 years. So if you submit it before that 5-year period, it's going to expire before you get to use it. Do I have another question?
Yes, this is from Renee again. She says she wasn't sure how to load her certificate for having had a student teacher.
Oh, well, I'll show you all that. Well, I'm going to go through ELVIS a little bit, so this will help you all on a lot of questions that you have regarding ELVIS. I'm going to log into mine. When you all come to ELVIS, a couple of things that I want to point out to you. Currently, for renewals and conversions and professionalizations, we are 4 days behind. We have a staff in our office of 8 people. That includes my director, and then seven of us that are out there hitting it hard. And Risa does it too. She helps us tremendously on keeping everything up and going. On the out-of-state originals, those coming from out of state doing evaluations, that's what I do. That's my primary job is doing the evaluations of credentials from those folks coming out of state. I also work with transition to teaching folks and charter school licensure. I kind of do a lot of the alternative licensure options, but you can tell where things are in the process. And these are folks that have just applied and not been asked for additional documentation, because we can return an application to someone and let them upload additional documents. Our office has that ability to do that, but the schools don't. So when you create your profile, and I'm guessing that most of you have created a profile. If you have not and need some additional information on that, I'd be happy to get that to you. I have a licensing, or I have XYZ School Corporation Authority. So that's something that shows up in my queue. I also have corporation authority for a licensing advisor. So there's a little different view on mine, but not a lot. So when you log into ELVIS, this is what you all see. And you have an option of working an application, and that's by clicking a green or a red box. But if you're not ready to do an application and you want to work on some of the things in ELVIS, then that's what we're going to discuss right now. The application is information that you're ready to submit and pay. But if you're wanting to work on your professional growth plan, we're going to go through all of that. So some of the things that I want to talk to you about are things, first off, in my profile. There are some things here that I really would like for each of you to check. And the first one is to click Edit Profile when you have an opportunity when you log into your ELVIS account, because I want you to look at your ELVIS email. What do you have in there? Do you have an email address that you receive emails from us on? If you don't, or if you're using a school email, the person that has the 10-year license, you've been doing this for a little bit. I'm not certain how close you are to retiring, but if you have a school email address in here and in 10 years you forget your password and you go to reset it, ELVIS is going to send an email to the school email address, and you're not going to be able to obtain it. So it's best to make sure that you have the correct information in here, okay? And that's not my Social Security number. This is a bogus account, so so everything in here is a little off. But I do want you all to check that. The other thing that I want you to look at down here is if at any point you ever have to do a name change request, that can be done by clicking that. There's no charge for a name change request. You just type in the information on what you want your name changed to. You upload a divorce decree, a driver's license, a legal name change affidavit, or a marriage license, and then you choose a file for that, upload it, put note. I think it might require you to type in some notes. If you don't get the submit request, type in something there. The date that it was affected on, you'll be able to submit it, and then that is taken care of again at no charge. Educational background information you can enter that in there under my profile. You would select the college or university from Indiana. If you selected someplace out of state, you can type that in and put that information in there. Okay. Your school employer can go in there as well. It's not required that you put that there, but it certainly is an option. And then a degree change, if you do a degree change when you're completing your application, then there's no charge. When you're doing a renewal or professionalization, there is no charge. But in the middle of the cycle of your license, you get your master's degree and you want it reflected on your license, it's going to cost you $36.72. That's just something to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about my application up here at the top. So there's a few things that I want to point out to you, and then I'm going to show you a little bit of information about the professional growth plan. So the first thing is application status. If you log into your ELVIS account and you want to see applications that you've started or that you've had approved or that may be in process, application status is where you're going to go. And at the bottom of application status is a list of the descriptions. So if the application says it's an advisor material review, then that's at the college or university. If it says school material review, which would be an emergency permit or transition to teaching permit, then that particular application is being reviewed by your school. DOE material review or just material review means it's at our office waiting for us to process. The closed applications means that when you start an application, you have 45 days to submit and pay for it. And if you don't get that done, ELVIS closes it out. Now, anything that you put into the application is gone, your CPR card usually, but anything that you have entered into your professional growth plan is still over here on the right-hand side under professional growth plan. Now, I have a professional growth plan conversion that I started, but I'm going to walk you through starting a professional growth plan for a 90-point PGP. Okay, they're all pretty much the same. You enter things the same. The number of PGP points that you acquire is what's different. So when you hit the drop down arrow, when you click professional growth plan and then create a PGP, you'll see the conversion to a 5-year license. That's for someone who's going from the IP 2-year license to the P 5-year license. You'll have the renewal of the 5 and the 10-year license, which is 90 points, and then the initial cycle reset. And again, we're trying to get those two things combined. So the renewal of the 5-year cycle reset, you'll click create PGP. I just started a professional growth plan for a 5 or a 10-year license. If I happen to go back over here and hit professional growth plan again, I now have 2 where I had 1 before. So if I want to edit that, I click view, and then there's the information, or there's my PGP and the date that I created it. There's a running total box here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and enter. This is where you enter who somebody wanted the student teacher. This is where you select that, and you'll enter cooperating teacher for a student teacher, and it automatically populates 30 points. You can't get anything more or anything less than 30. So that one is set. The cooperating teacher for undergrad and practicum students or field students is set at 15. And then college credit can be added in here. If you're renewing with 6 hours of coursework, then you're not going to do a professional growth plan. But if you only have 3 hours of college coursework and you still need 45 points, because college coursework, I'm going to go ahead and select a date of activity. I'm going to put 3 credit hours. And I'm just going to put test in here for today. And the choose file, I need to discuss that for just a moment. All of you, when you're creating a professional growth plan and before you start to enter anything into this PGP, you need to talk to your principal, and because you submit it to the school. And you need to ask your principal, do you want to see documentation or can I hand deliver it? Now, with things being the way it is with COVID, they may ask you to submit them and email them, or they may ask you to upload them here. That's up to the principal. Once you enter documentation in and you hit save, you can't edit that. The only thing that you can do is remove it. And if you notice, the 3 credit hours that I entered is now 45 points. So I still need 45 additional points. In-services, conferences, and workshops, all of these things can be entered in as individual points. You can put as many or as few as you wish. Again, I'm going to put test, maybe, and then I'm going to click save. Okay, now I have my 45 points. You can see the running total is 90 of 90 points required. As soon as you hit the 90 of 90 points, you can scroll down and see the submit PGP for verification. Now, this is when, if you're a teacher at a school, you're going to choose your school, not the corporation. You're going to choose your school. So when you select the radio button that you're employed at an Indiana school, then all of the options come up. Now, if you teach at a school that starts with an S, type in SA or ST if it's, so whatever letter that you start with, you can hit that letter and it will automatically take you to it. So that's helpful so you don't have to scroll through the whole thing. I'm going to go down here to, wasn't Xavier. Come on. Sometimes. There it is, XYZ High School. And we're going to submit the PGP for verification. When you submit the PGP, you're confirming that everything is correct. And we select confirm. And now the status of my PGP is school review. So my 5-year license professional growth plan is in school review. Okay. Once that gets approved, then you're ready to come up and do add application, which is the green or the red button. But your professional growth plan is still here. So this is the one that I had in process before. If I mentor a new educator, there's no time frame on that. That's up between you and your principal or your school corporation. Test, save and close. And here I've started one on the conversion application. So you can go to anything else in here. You can go to view and print licenses, to print licenses, and you can go back to your professional growth plan, and that information is still there. It's still available. The information that I put in there is still the same. The professional growth plan that is in school review, the only thing that I can do here is look at it, unless the school principal returns that back to you for processing or changing something. At that point, you would have to remove your entry and re-enter it. Any questions about professional growth plans? Have I lost you all?
Don't see any questions in the chat.
Okay.
I have one if you don't mind. So
Sure.
I noticed you went through the process for if you work for a school,
Right.
But I don't work for a school. I work for a college. So
sure.
Could you walk me through that?
Absolutely. Just click that other button and it's going to come to our office. The only difference is every entry that you make, you have to provide us documentation because we have to see what you've done. We have no proof. The schools sometimes, there are some schools that have like a PGP computer program that they have all of that information in that program. I have advised principals, if you have that program, tell your teachers to just do a screenshot of that year's entry and put the whole, like enter it in as other, see document attached for that entry. So you work at a college, there's good news for you. Are you teaching at that college?
Yes, and I like good news.
Well, looky here. So when you do college credit for courses that you teach at the college or university, you will enter the number of hours. You can use the same course over two different semesters if it's a 3-hour course, if it's a 1-hour course, for 2 different semesters, but you can't use the same one. If you teach the same course in one semester 4 times, you can only use it once in that semester.
Wow, so we can use courses we teach, or
Yay! Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, I've been attending trainings just like this and various things, which is good
But
to keep up to
please
date,
continue with these things because these are good.
yeah, no, they are. It's nice. I've kind of been worried about this whole thing, and I've got a few years to go, but it's good to know. So thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, a question from Pam.
Okay.
He says, so we create a plan, record 90 points, then submit plan. Then next you add the application?
Yes. Once you're PG, so when XYZ School Corporation approves my professional growth plan, then I'm ready to do the application. And I'll get an email stating that it's been approved. So sometimes you have to pay attention to your email because is it the license that's been approved or is it the PGP that's been approved? What happened when we first started this, and some of you have been here long enough to know, when we first started ELVIS, you started an application and it routed you over to a PGP. That no longer happens. And I'm going to get ready to walk through this here real quick. So let me walk through an application with you all. So an app and the school work queue, let me show you this real quick. Your principal, see, Ryan Johnson submitted a conversion 5-year to the PGP. This is what your principal sees in his own ELVIS account. He gets no emails. He doesn't get anything. He's supposed to log in. So that's why you need to tell him that you've submitted your professional growth plan and that it needs to be approved. Okay. So once you get that approval email on the professional growth plan, you come back and when you log in, it's going to look like this. Okay. And your educational background is probably already in there because I don't think ELVIS lets you start create a profile without putting that in there. I was trying to clean everything out today to make sure I was ready for my presentation with you all, and I removed that. So what we're going to do is we're going to click I am in Indiana, and we're going to click renew a license. And I'm a current Indiana teacher instructor. Am I going too fast? And then we are going to renew an instructional license. I think I'll do renew the instructional license with PGP IP 3rd renewal. Now, if you have a 5-year license and you're just renewing with a professional growth plan, it's right there. If you're renewing with coursework, you've got that. If you're you hold that 2-year license, that IP 2, you've only renewed it once or twice, then you'd click the initial practitioner 1st and 2nd renewals. So I'm going to choose the renew with 3rd license. Pretty much all the applications are set up exactly the same. So while ELVIS is trying to select all this information, when you get your license and get to this is the actual application portion. The green buttons and the red buttons are kind of trying to direct you a little bit through this. So the instructional license is what I'm going to select. I'm going to select that I have 2 or more years of experience. My apologies. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select that I have 1 or 2 years of experience because if 2 or more, I would be doing a conversion license, and we're not doing that. We're doing an initial practitioner. Recycle, reset. So if your PGP was submitted and approved, this sentence would say, your PGP is in approved status. the Department of Education continues or approves this application. So you would click next because it would say it would be approved. There are 3 questions for you to answer in every application. If you happen to answer yes to any of these questions, you need to provide a brief description, and then you need to provide documentation along with that. You can upload additional documents, whatever you need. I will state that you must answer these questions honestly and be forthright. We have revoked licenses for those folks that were not forthright. And you click next. So here is where typically you would upload your CPR card. But the Department of Education, we felt that you guys uploading your CPR and your suicide when you have already uploaded a valid CPR and suicide prevention document, that you shouldn't have to do that. So we have this view documents over here. And that indicates that I have a CPR card already on file, and it expires on October 2nd of 2020. And you can view the document that we have uploaded for that. And that's my Superman cape. So if you want to see the CPR card that you've uploaded, if we call it archiving, but when we file the documents that you have provided, your CPR and your suicide prevention training document, then we can file that, so you'll never have to upload CPR or suicide prevention again. Those of you that might do a master's program to get your building level administrator license, that would be another required upload for that. So that's no longer necessary. So if we don't ask for it, you don't see anything being requested. So I just went to application status, which is the second bullet over there on the right, and you see the application that's in process. That's the one that we just started a few minutes ago. When you click edit, it's going to go back through and take you back to the beginning. You'll click next. We still don't have the approved PGP, but we're going to click next. We have no's answered there. We click next. And if there's nothing required, a required document is going to have a red star over here. If there's nothing required, then you can click next. And anything that's in red has to be fixed before you can submit this application for payment. Okay. Now, questions about this? I'm going to click save for later. No questions?
Nothing in the chat.
All right. So there are test scores that you can find in your ELVIS account if they've been uploaded into your ELVIS account. Certainly that can be in there. Yeah, I see one popping up. What do we got?
Yep, let's see. Can CPR training be part of the 90 points?
That's a question for your principal. We have accepted it here at the department, but some principals would say no. So it's definitely a good question because it's completely separate. It's a separate entity, but you have to do it to get certified. So yeah, we've used it. We've had people use it, and we will accept it. Okay. Another thing, just real quick, the Department of Education, if you ever run out of points, the Department of Education in the licensing page on our website, on those links on the right, there are PD links there for professional development options. So if anyone ever needs to get some professional development, that certainly can happen. View and print licenses, I don't know if I went there earlier. The download the PDF is the better quality license. So if you want a good one to print out and put on your wall, you provide your own paper so you can get really nice, thick, good paper or something to put on there. You certainly can get that done. And then again, view documents, we discussed that. Make sure when you log in to do your professional growth plan, the second PGP is for educational interpreters, not for licensed teachers. Educational interpreters only need 36, and they are not in any areas in which you will recognize. So, another question?
Angela Miller was able to answer it about NEA micro-credentials.
Somebody has questions about micro, I didn't look at the question.
Renee asked about NEA micro-credentials.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Yes. So she'll provide you, is this for the trainings here that you're talking about?
I'm not exactly sure, but
Okay.
Angela Miller answered for us.
There you go. Thanks, Angie. All right. Email log. Anytime that you want to see what you've been sent from the Department of Education through ELVIS, click your email log. A lot of times, again, I discussed that if you have a school email or sometimes they have good filters that our emails don't get through, go to email log and you can certainly see all the different things that have been submitted and emailed to you from, it's called system administrator is what the email comes from. So if you haven't added that system administrator to your safe senders, you might want to make sure that you do that. So are there any other questions that I can answer or help you all with, or? No? All right. Well, my name is Susie Langston. I'm with the Indiana Department of Education. Let me see. Whoops, that's a cute one, isn't it? I wanted to grab this and
Susie,
this.
Can you
Yes.
answer? I know you answered this for me, and I'm sorry, but I'm
That's
getting
okay.
ready to add this in, so I'm going to get it this time.
Okay.
How many hours can you count for teaching a college course?
A college course will be the number of hours that the college student would obtain. So if it's a 3 credit hour course for the student, it would be a 3-hour credit course for you. Now,
Perfect.
to verify that though, because you need verification of that, you're going to need to have this school, the university on school letterhead, write you a letter verifying what you've taught and the number of hours it was, and have them sign it.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. And
You're
you said
welcome.
you can't count the same course, different sections. You can only count that one time.
If you do the same one on that if you do the same course 4 times in one semester, it's 1 time you get to count it. But if you do the same course next semester, you can count it for both. You can do both.
Okay. Okay. Gosh, I have a lot because I've taught for a while. So
yeah.
okay.
So I mean, you only need 90 points. That's the other thing to keep in mind, folks. While you're gathering your professional growth plan points, and especially those of you with 10-year licenses, you're going to get over 90 points, but you need to consider and ask your principal if he wants to review everything that you've gotten or just 90 points. So,
Which leads me to one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think I know the answer, but this is good to double check. So there's no need to submit anything early before it's due to expire. That's correct?
The professional growth plan, when you get to 90 points, you can submit it. If you have a 5-year license, if you get to 90 points within the first 2 years, you can submit it for approval. That PGP is going to be valid for 5 years, which will allow you to renew it. Now, ELVIS at one point said, well, you already had a valid PGP. You don't need to submit the other one. So we can just sit there too. It'll sit there. Everything that I just entered into that PGP, that is going to sit there until the end of time, until I submit it.
So I made my PGP in 2016, and it's been sitting here. Me knowing that in 2023 I need to renew or want to renew. So I guess that's, so is there a need? I'm at my 90, well over it. So can I let someone review to say, yes, this is sufficient, or no, it's not, so I would know to keep gathering if I need to?
No, yes, yes. You can go ahead when you hit that 90, you can go ahead and submit it if you're within, so the application that you start, don't want to start that until you're within 45 days from the expiration of the license. Okay, the professional growth plan points, they're going to be valid for 5 years. So if you're close to the 5 years, then you could go ahead and, and that close to that expiration, you want to go ahead and submit that and get that approved. So when you do the application, you don't run into what I had the problem with. It said my PGP is not in approved status. So you want that PGP to just be ready and sitting there. They're 2 separate entities, but the PGP has to be submitted and approved before you do the application. All All
So
right.
let me just clarify. If I made my PGP in 2016,
Right?
it's not going to be good come
No,
2000
it's the date you submit it. 5 years from the date you submit it.
submit it. Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
Well, I'm sorry, 5 days from the date that it was approved is how long the PGP is open.
Oh, okay.
Licenses, yeah. So from the date that it's approved, it'll be valid for 5 years.
Okay, that's important. See,
Sorry.
these little
My
details are
little
important.
details, my apologies. All right. So I answered everyone's questions. I hope this helped everyone.
We have one more question.
Sure.
CPR training. Does it matter who you're certified with, like the American Red Cross or American Heart
does.
Association or Red Cross?
It does.
Okay.
American Red Cross, American Heart Association are two of the biggest ones, and they offer, they're worldwide, I believe. They offer training blended courses right now. So you can do the classroom portion online and then go to an instructor and do the hands-on component. That, like I said earlier, the governor didn't waive the online and allow us to utilize online only. And the state legislature, when they added CPR as a requirement for you all for teaching, it includes a hands-on component in front of an instructor. So that's something that you all have to do. There are several listed. Let me go back over. You guys still are on this. Okay. Let me go back over here and you can click the CPR link. Can you all see that? And when you click the CPR link, there's a list of approved providers. Okay. Pro Trainings has a blended course too. I think a lot of them do now. I used to be an instructor for medic first aid and did hands-on training. I don't know if they've gone to a blended course or not, but I know that that's something that's offered around here in Indiana. So, okay. Any other questions?
That's all I'm seeing.
Okay. Well, folks, thank you for letting me present and explain licensing to you. And if you have any questions, again, this is my contact information. Feel free to shoot me an email. My hours typically are from 7 a.m. until 3:30. So if you want to catch me early before you all start school, certainly give me a ring. I think by 7:10, I have had at least 1 cup of coffee and might be coherent, so I can answer your questions. Our busy season starts in this next year is going to start a lot earlier because of the COVID delays that people are using. So if any of you have delayed your license, April, May, June, it's just going to be crazy. So bear with us next year.
We are not able to see your contact information right now.
You are not?
No.
Oh my goodness. Let me stop share
Okay.
and let me reshare. How about that?
That's great.
Maybe if I can remember how to share. There it is, share screen. Oh, come on. My computer does wonky things. There it is. Got it. Did it come?
No.
Oh my goodness. So I get to it and it goes away. Oh, there it is.
Oh.
No. Let me do this. Let me stop my video. And then let me do that. Haha.
There it is.
Yay.
Very nice.
Sorry guys. Again, this is you guys were my first Zoom meeting where I presented the whole time. So I hope I did okay.
You did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or anything?
Susie, this is Angela.
Hi, Angela.
I just, since I have been in all the sessions, wondered when you were talking about verifying PGP, that we have talked on our roadshow. If you know you have an administrator who is retiring or leaving, or you are leaving, and you know that the next person may not be familiar with all of the things that you have done, that since that's a separate document, that you could go ahead and have that approved and sitting and waiting until it's time to renew.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only the administrator, let's think about what if you're leaving?
Exactly.
So what if you're going to retire, you know, and you want to get your professional growth plan for this next renewal? Certainly go ahead and submit that and get that approved and waiting. But if you're a 10-year licensed teacher, you may have to wait until the last 5 years, and our office can approve that. We have Jessica in our office takes care of all of that. She does a great job. So, and this year went, I mean, you know, as many applications as we had this year, and those that even, you know, we kept up. I'm tickled pink with our work this year. So we've done pretty good. So, all right. So, okay, well, again, thank you all, and I hope you guys have a great, great session throughout this. Angela, I'm back on here again Thursday.
Okay, we'll see you Thursday then.
All right, that sounds good. Are you going to be helping me again, Katie?
I will, yes.
Ah, very good. Well, then we'll be all right. If you remember something that I forget to say, let me know.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You all have a great session here, and enjoy your